Since entering the manor, everyone knows how much Xia Heng spoils me. He even took a young concubine. I heard they were once in love when they were young, but once she entered the manor, she was neglected. Xia Heng never looked at her, only pampered me. He was scheming to take the throne, and his hidden enemies couldn't hurt him, but they targeted the woman he loved most with countless assassination attempts. At a banquet, poison was slipped into my drink, and I had a painful miscarriage. Then, our carriage was attacked, and I fell, breaking both my legs. In the final battle for the throne, my rival and I were kidnapped by his mortal enemy, and when they gave him a choice, he didn't hesitate to choose me. That enemy stabbed me in the flesh, claiming he wanted to take away the woman Xia Heng loved most. I languished in bed, and he ascended the throne, but gave the position of empress to that concubine. Dressed in his imperial robe, he confronted me. "I never loved you. All these years of pampering you were only because I knew my brothers would use the woman I loved as a threat against me. I needed a living target." He took the concubine's hand and continued, "I neglected her to protect her. I pampered you to protect her." The concubine smiled and said, "Thank you, sister, for all these years of protection, allowing me to live in comfort and not suffer as you did, constantly poisoned, harmed, and nearly killed." I died with hatred in my heart, but when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day the poison was slipped into my drink at the banquet. Without hesitation, I switched the poisoned wine into Xia Heng's hands. The poison reflected my youthful face in the wine. I knew I had been reborn back to 3 years ago, at this very banquet. When I looked up, Prince Ning Xia Heng was laughing and talking with several ministers. He was in high spirits, as if everything was under his control. Not long ago, he had captured Prince Qi's secrets, using them to accuse him of inappropriate relations with a courtesan, causing Prince Qi to be scolded by the emperor and the princess to miscarry in anger. Having struck down a fierce rival, Xia Heng was in a good mood and held this banquet to reward the eloquent officials in his faction. What he didn't know was that Prince Qi had sworn to take revenge, and spies had infiltrated the kitchen to poison the wine. This cup of poisoned wine was meant for me, the wife of Prince Ning. In my past life, after drinking that wine, I suffered 3 days of abdominal pain, and the child in my womb turned to a pool of blood. Later, the imperial physician diagnosed that I could never conceive again like a normal woman. Xia Heng had caused the death of the child in Prince Qi's wife's womb, and Prince Qi sought revenge, making Xia Heng's most beloved woman pay the price. Yes, everyone in the capital knew Song Jivan was Xia Heng's most beloved woman. On the night of our wedding, he ordered every household in the royal city to hang red lanterns and keep the lights on until dawn. That night, the capital was filled with joy, and all the people knew it was Prince Ning's special love for his wife. After we married, at any official event, he would always take me, his legitimate wife, with him. In front of everyone, we would hold hands, displaying our mutual affection without any reservations. Whenever he went to court, he would always wear the jade pendant or fragrance pouch I gave him. Even when facing the princes who competed for the throne, he would frequently mention me, his wife, boasting that I was gentle and virtuous, and his greatest love in life. He loved me so openly that even the dogs passing by in the streets of the royal city, when kicked, would bark. Prince Ning Xia Heng loves his wife the most. Xia Heng loved me without concealment, and of course, his hidden enemies knew that I was his weakness. Since Prince Ning loved me like his life, if they killed me, they could severely hurt him. So in my past life, the poisoned wine, the carriage accident, and the assassination by the rebel army were all aimed at me. By the time Xia Heng truly became the crown prince, I was already crippled, sick, and poisoned. My body, which had been harmed, was already exhausted, and I didn't have much time left. I knew my life would soon end, but I had no regrets. I only thought that at least the poison had not harmed Xia Heng. Until then, I thought he truly cared for me, and I naturally wanted to repay him with my heart. When I knew he was about to ascend the throne, I thought that even though I wouldn't be empress for long, at least my family would benefit. But when he ascended the throne, he gave the title of empress to that quiet little concubine in the manor. That concubine was Zhang Yingxue, the daughter of Minister Zhang of the Rights Department. Minister Zhang had been accused of corruption, and Zhang Yingxue almost ended up sold as a slave. Xia Heng rescued her and told me that it was only out of sympathy for the childhood bond they had and not wanting to see her suffer, so he took her into the manor as a concubine. You see, even when he took a concubine, he would explain it so gently to me. After the concubine entered the manor, Xia Heng rarely visited her. Even on their wedding night, he just went through the motions with her, then came straight to my room. He played the neglect game so well that when he held Zhang Yingshue's hand in front of me, I thought I was imagining things due to my illness. They had 2 3-year-old children by their side. One was the young crown prince, and the other was a little princess. Zhang Yingxue smiled and thanked me. "Thank you, sister, for sheltering me from the wind and rain these 3 years. You haven't seen these 2 children, have you?" She pushed the 2 children, dressed in fine clothes, in front of me, proudly saying, "These 2 children were already in my belly before I entered the manor. Didn't you know?" She smiled and covered her lips. "You really didn't know because the emperor treated me very well when he was still a prince. I was kept in the back courtyard. It seemed like I wasn't favored, but I lacked nothing, not even compared to you, the favored wife." The outside world was chaotic. The princes wanted to tear the prince apart, and he said it was too dangerous outside. If he didn't pamper me, the princes wouldn't target me. But just protecting me wasn't enough, was it? He needed to marry another wife as a living target, so he asked the late emperor to let you marry him. At first, I didn't want to. He was my childhood sweetheart, and we had a deep connection. Watching him pamper another woman, I naturally felt upset. Until that banquet, when you were poisoned and miscarried, I understood the emperor's intentions. He really was protecting me. Later, I obediently followed the emperor's plan. During that time, sister, you must have suffered a lot of dark schemes, right? Zhang Yingxue gently touched her belly and said, "When you miscarried from the poisoned wine, I was peacefully nurturing my pregnancy in the inner courtyard. When you fell from the carriage and broke both your legs, the prince was listening to the twin babies in my womb. When you were kidnapped by the rebel army, the prince and I shared a knowing look. He chose you, but in reality, he guessed early on that the rebels would strike at the woman he loved first. Choosing you was actually to protect me." She stepped forward, her slender fingers pressing against my chin, arrogantly mocking me as a conqueror. "Song Jivan, what does it matter if you're a noblewoman? You're just a live target for the prince's protection, and you and your child are my scapegoats." I glared at Xia Heng, hoping to hear him deny it, but his gaze toward me was as cold as ice. "I've never loved you," he said. "All these years of favoring you. I did it because my royal brothers would use the woman I love the most as leverage against me. As Yingxue said, during the battle for the throne, I needed a shield to take the blows." He took Yingshue's hand. "To keep her from being the shield, I married you and pretended to love you. The thousands of lanterns on our wedding night were meant to show everyone how much I, the prince's consort, was valued. Whenever there were palace banquets, I always took you with me, and in front of the officials, I made sure to mention you, so that everyone in the palace would know that harming you would hurt me deeply. Those who hated me but couldn't openly harm me would aim their knives at you. They would poison, assassinate, and leave traces behind. I was able to catch those with the evidence. Didn't King Qi fall because of that? All the schemes and plots were focused on you, while my true love, Yingxue, would safely bear me twins." Xia Heng was clearly proud of his plotting. "I neglected her to protect her, and I spoiled you to protect her." The injuries I had sustained for Xia Heng's sake began to throb painfully, as if mocking my past naivety and foolishness. I propped myself up and, with my last breath, asked, "Was there not even a shred of true love in all the years of affection?" Xia Heng laughed loudly. True love is the most worthless and useless thing in this world. Your true love is just a joke in my eyes." A sharp pain struck my chest, and I spat out a mouthful of black blood. The 2 children saw me in such a pitiful state, and clutching Yingshue's hand, they asked, "Mother, She's so pitiful. Who is she? Xue laughed, her phoenix crown's tassels swaying loudly.
She?
She's the joke that your father and mother stepped on. The two children gathered around me, pointing and laughing, shouting, "A joke! A joke! There's a joke here." A gust of biting cold wind blew through, pulling me from my past life memories. I touched my still flat belly. Inside was the child I was never able to give birth to in my previous life. I knew it was a boy, and if he was born, he would be the heir to the Ning Prince's title and possibly the future Little Crown Prince. Looking up, Xie Heng was still surrounded by officials, and the cup of poison still sat quietly in front of me. A maid hurriedly disappeared behind a rockery. She was the one who had poisoned the drink. I had to catch her, but I couldn't alert her, so I instinctively looked toward the man sitting on the left side of the banquet. He seemed to sense it and looked toward me. At that moment, Xie Heng waved for me to come over. I smiled and nodded, rising, and casually took the poisoned cup from the table. "My prince, I've warmed your wine." Before Xie Heng could respond, a few officials beside us began to flatter him. Prince Ning and the princess consort are truly the envy of everyone. Xie Heng readily pulled me into his arms and kissed my cheek. Just like in my past life, whenever we were in a public place, he would deliberately remind everyone he loved me, his consort. This way, his enemies in the shadows would target me even more. "I'm a bit drunk tonight, my love. Would you feed me some?" He really was slightly tipsy, deliberately acting coquettish in front of everyone. I smiled and said,
"Sure."
I personally fed him the poisoned wine. Seeing his Adam's apple bob as the wine slid down, I knew it had gone down his throat. This poison was very potent. In my past life, it took less than 10 breaths to send me into excruciating pain. I stared at Xie Heng, full of vitality, and silently counted. 10, 9, 8, 3, 2. "My prince? What's wrong?" Xie Heng, who had just been laughing, suddenly turned pale. The cup slipped from his hand as he clutched his lower body in agony. This poison, when taken by a woman, would cause a miscarriage, rendering her infertile for life. For a man, it naturally damages his manhood. The officials present had brought their wives, and when the usually dignified Prince Ning suddenly grabbed his lower body in front of everyone, subtle expressions appeared on their faces. I pretended to be unaware and concerned, reminding Xie Heng, "My prince, please mind your manners." Xie Heng didn't listen to me, and with a sweep of his hand, he knocked the food and drink from the table, crying out in pain as he clutched his lower body. Only then did everyone realize that Prince Ning had been poisoned. "My prince, what happened?" I feigned shock as I approached to help him, stretching out my hand in concern. "My prince, where does it hurt?" Xie Heng was writhing in my arms, unable to speak a coherent word from the pain. I followed the direction of his hand and touched him. "Does it hurt here?" Suddenly, I squeezed hard. There was a sharp, cracking sound, like the breaking of an eggshell. Xie Heng's body stiffened instantly as he stared at me. I smiled gently and asked with concern, "My prince, there's no need to be shy with me. Does it hurt here?" I pressed harder. This time, the egg was completely crushed in my palm. Xie Heng let out a horrible scream, his eyes rolled back, and he fainted. Then, the scene erupted into chaos. Xie Heng was carried into the inner chamber. The imperial physician arrived quickly. News soon reached the inner courtyard, and Zhang Xue hurriedly rushed over. Her figure was hidden beneath thick robes, as in my previous life. Xie Heng had told her he didn't want his concubines causing distractions, disturbing the marital bond between us. Therefore, Zhang Xue didn't have to come to me daily for formal greetings, and I didn't know she was pregnant with twins until after she gave birth. "My prince, what happened? How did he get poisoned? How have you been looking after him?" Zhang Xue saw the blood stains on the ground and shouted at me in a panic, as if she were the true mistress of the manor. I scoffed and raised my hand, slapping her across the face. The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the courtyard, and the entire back garden fell silent for a moment. Zhang Xue was caught off guard by my slap, and even the silver hairpin meant to give her a modest and elegant look was tilted. She turned her head to look at me in disbelief. You? You dare hit me? Do you know who I? Before she could finish her words, I slapped her right cheek again. The prince is poisoned and dying, and you, a concubine, are here making noise and disrupting the peace of the inner chamber. Shouldn't you be slapped? I was a general's daughter, with a strong hand, and Zhang Xue was sent sprawling to the ground. She clutched her belly, glaring at me with the viciousness of an enraged she-wolf. Song Jivan. You! The maid beside me, Yue scolded. Outrageous. A concubine, who isn't even favored, dares to call the princess consort by her name. Zhang Xue's eyes filled with tears of anger and grievance. In my previous life, Xie Heng and she had used me as a live target, working together seamlessly, and it wasn't until my death that I realized I had been nothing more than a pawn. But after being reborn, I carefully reflected on my mistakes. Zhang Xue's father was a second-rank scholar who had once been a tutor to the princes. Although he was later caught for corruption, Zhang Xue, born into a scholarly family, had a proud and arrogant nature. In my past life, she had been neglected in the manor for 3 years, but she endured it because Xie Heng had promised her something that gave her hope. And second, I, as the princess consort, had too kind a nature. Even though she was a neglected concubine, I, as the lady of the house, never made things difficult for her. After I learned of her humble beginnings and that she was the daughter of Xie Heng's mentor, I sympathized with her and gave her a proper place in the manor when she entered. Whenever there were discussions about her being neglected, I stopped them immediately. I had been too kind-hearted, making her life too comfortable, which allowed someone so proud and arrogant to endure until Xie Heng ascended the throne and she rose to power. This time, I would show her that in the harem, if a woman is not favored, she will not live with dignity. Only when she was desperate would she stir trouble with Xie Heng. Only when Xie Heng lost control would I have the chance to break free from the fate of being a living target. At that moment, a servant came running, shouting, "Bad news. The prince is vomiting blood." What? Zhang Xue panicked, getting up from the floor and rushing toward the warm chambers. "Let me go in and see the prince. Let me in." I had 2 old servants hold her back, and she, embarrassed and furious, shouted, "The person the prince wants to see most right now is me. Let me in to see him." I sneered. "Even if the prince is on his deathbed tonight, someone like you, a neglected concubine, is not worthy to see him one last time." Zhang Xue was stunned by my words, looking at me in shock. She probably hadn't expected the gentle and loving consort from yesterday to suddenly turn so domineering and vicious. I adjusted my hairpin and coldly ordered, "Someone hold her back. If she causes a scene and disturbs the prince, slap her mouth. No mercy." The 2 servants responded with strength. At the princess consort's command, I turned and entered the inner chamber. Xie Heng was a mess, his body ravaged by the poison. His face was pale, his lips were purple, and his legs trembled uncontrollably. Black blood seeped from his lower body. I thought the poison was incurable, since in my previous life I never fully recovered from it and had to endure the cold, cramping pain in my lower abdomen at night. But the imperial physician quickly prepared an antidote. This poison can be cured if the antidote is taken within 3 hours. I was stunned and asked, "What if the antidote is taken after 3 hours?" "If the antidote is taken after 3 hours, the prince may never be able to perform again." A chill ran through me. In my past life, I wouldn't have suffered lifelong infertility. Why wasn't the medicine given to me in time? I remembered now. After I woke up in my previous life, my maid told me that when I had fainted from poisoning, it was Zhang Xue who had been taking care of me. On the day she entered the manor, she had held my hand and said, "Sister, you truly are the daughter of a general's family. It's clear you're strong and healthy, able to bear children, unlike me, who's so weak I can barely stand in the wind." So, after I miscarried from the poison, She deliberately made me suffer through an entire night of torment before feeding me the antidote, which caused great harm to my body, leaving me unable to bear children again. Meanwhile, her twin babies were secured in their position. So it was like this. I took the antidote, asked the doctor to leave, and said, "I'll take care of the prince myself." Siahung loved me, and our marriage was filled with affection. Everyone was sure I would never harm him. The doctor didn't suspect anything and left with his assistants. Once the room was left with just my people, more blood poured from Siahung's lower body. The poison was aimed directly at his most vital part. I knew how potent this poison was. For a man, it felt like being under constant castration. He was convulsing in pain. It was truly pitiful. Zhang Yingshua's methods, this time, I would use on Siahung. I tipped the antidote over, spilling it all on the floor. Yue, who was nearby, was startled. "Princess, what are you doing?" I placed the bowl down and calmly watched Siahung writhe in pain. I asked softly, "Where are the unarmored guards?" The Song family has been military for generations. When I married into the prince's manor, my dowry included a group of retired soldiers, brave warriors who had fought on the front lines against the barbarians. These veterans, who had been injured in battle, retired but still possessed great skills, were known as the unarmored guards. In my previous life, I managed to survive numerous plots thanks to the protection of the unarmored guards. Siahung was favored by the civil officials in court, but lacked the support of military generals. After he married me, the Song family aligned with his faction, and my dowry, including the unarmored guards, became the most important force defending the prince's manor. To others, it seemed like Siahung and I were deeply in love, and naturally, the unarmored guards were loyal to him. But when it truly mattered, the only one they would be loyal to was me, Song Jivan. A shadow flew in through the window, and a figure dressed in black armor saluted. "How may I serve you, princess?" I stood up, adjusting my sleeves, and instructed, "The prince needs to rest. You must guard the door and not let anyone in." The unarmored guard respectfully replied, "Understood. The general has requested to meet you by the rockery." The general? I was taken aback, then quickly made my way to the garden's rockery. Under the moonlight, that figure stood tall and dependable. I ran a few steps, my eyes brimming with tears, and threw myself into his arms. "Brother." Song Mingchen was startled by my embrace. He held the back of my neck, seeing my tear-streaked face, and seemed surprised. "Did tonight's events frighten you to tears?" I stared intently at his face, listening to his familiar voice. Song Mingchen was my real brother. Our father was old, and it was Song Mingchen who upheld the Song family with his military achievements. He was also the support that helped me secure my position in the prince's manor. In my past life, he often reminded me to stay alert and not to get lost in Siaheng's sweet words, but Siaheng's schemes ran deep, and I had been completely deceived. I didn't know the fate of the Song family after I died in my previous life. Did Siaheng use me as a scapegoat? Did he betray the Song family once they had outlived their use? Did my parents and brother meet a good end? The answer was likely grim, and when I thought about it, my tears poured uncontrollably. I wasn't a crybaby. When I fell from a tree as a child, bleeding from my head, I never shed a single tear. Song Mingchen knew I wasn't one to be easily frightened, and since the events of tonight hadn't physically harmed me, he originally planned to tease me. However, seeing me crying uncontrollably, he became serious. He raised his hand to wipe my tears and gently comforted me. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. You're pregnant now. You can't cry." I gazed steadily at my brother. Only I could see through Siaheng's soft exterior, while the whole Song family still thought he loved me and pledged loyalty to the prince's manor. My brother was loyal to his country, but Siaheng didn't deserve anyone's loyalty. "Brother, I'm not afraid." I stopped crying, standing on tiptoe, unable to reach his ear. I waved my hand to him, and he bent down to listen. I whispered in his ear, "I had a dream. In it, Siaheng ascended the throne, and the Song family fell into ruin, discarded like a dead dog. Brother, think about it. In every dynasty, can any founding general ever avoid the emperor's suspicion? Song Mingchen looked at me with some surprise. I nervously added, Brother, this is what I truly fear. Anyone else hearing my words would think I was just overthinking because of my pregnancy, that I was taking a dream too seriously. But my brother listened seriously, understanding my fear. He knew I wasn't joking. A struggling sound entered my ears, and I noticed two unarmored guards dragging a maid with a cloth stuffed in her mouth. She was the one who poisoned me. Song Mingchen said, When you gave me that look during the banquet, I knew you needed help. Following her gaze to the rockery, I found this maid acting suspicious. I captured her and left her for you to deal with. I glanced at the maid and instructed the unarmored guards to remove the cloth. The maid immediately cried out in grievance. Princess, what have I done wrong? You served me the poisoned wine right in front of me. Did you think I didn't see it? When she saw her defense was failing, the maid loudly accused, The princess knew it was poisoned, but you still gave it to the prince to drink. The traitor only wants to see the prince lose his love, but you, princess, truly want to end his life. I sneered. Lose his love? What a loss of love. My life is worth much more than the prince's. The maid didn't expect me to say this and retorted, Aren't you afraid I'll go to the prince and tell him everything? I stepped forward, gripping her chin. A dead person has no life to accuse anyone. As I pressed a hidden blade against her neck, she panicked. No. You wouldn't dare kill me. Don't you want my confession? What confession could I need from you once you're dead? I slit her throat in one swift motion. The maid shuddered, her eyes wide in terror, reflecting in the darkness. Before her body collapsed, I grabbed her hand, dipped my fingers in her spurting blood, and stamped my seal onto a prepared confession. The maid collapsed to the floor and twitched a few times before going still. The leader of the unarmored guards couldn't help but ask, Why doesn't the princess use severe torture? Let her confess that Prince Qi was the mastermind behind the poisoning. She dared to poison me, so she must be a die-hard loyalist who won't easily confess. Rather than wasting time torturing her, it's better to directly pin the crime on her. Song Mingchen grabbed my hand and wiped the blood from my palm. You don't need to do it yourself. Everything has been handled by your brother. He looked at me with unwavering eyes. Don't worry, I won't let the nightmare come true. I smiled. Brother, this is just an appetizer. I looked toward Prince Xie's chambers. There are many more people I need to kill. At dawn, I finally allowed the imperial doctor to come for a re-examination. The doctor took one look at Prince Xie's deathly pale face, his purple lips, and the collapsed trousers, and was immediately alarmed. He hurried to check his pulse, and after a moment, he cautiously asked, Princess, why has the poison in the prince's body shown no signs of easing, but rather seems to have worsened? I replied, That's something you should be asking the doctor. Last night, I personally fed the prince the medicine you prescribed. But looking at the pulse, the doctor hesitated and said, It seems the prince hasn't shown any signs of taking the medicine. Could he be implying I didn't give the prince the medicine? I stared directly at the doctor without any trace of guilt. Who doesn't know that the prince and I are deeply in love, that he dotes on me? Naturally, I would never withhold the antidote from him. Dr. Li, slandering the princess is no small matter. The doctor, trembling, replied, I didn't dare. Prince Xie's influence was at its peak, and in the eyes of others, I, his most beloved princess, was likely to be the future crown princess, even the future empress. I had always been kind to others, but that didn't mean I lacked authority. The doctor trembled. Please, princess, don't be angry. It's just that I truly couldn't detect any signs of medicine being taken from the prince's pulse. That's a problem with your medical skills, I said matter-of-factly. The medicine you prescribed last night wasn't good enough. Fortunately, the prince is still alive. If you don't fix this immediately, do you want to wait until the prince dies and the emperor comes to punish your whole family? The doctor quickly apologized. Princess, please spare my life. I smiled. If you properly detoxify the prince, I can pretend that the mistake you made last night never happened. Naturally, the doctor should mind his own words. If you say the wrong thing, remember that I alone possess the prince's favor. Nothing will happen to me, but you should worry about your life. The doctor understood. I understand. I understand. In the eyes of the imperial doctor, there was no doubt about the affection between Prince Xie and me. He was skeptical of his medical skills, but never doubted my loyalty to the prince. He hastily prepared a new medicine and increased the dosage of the antidote. This time, he personally watched as the prince took the medicine. Afterward, the prince's complexion noticeably improved, and his lips gradually regained their color. But the antidote had been delayed by 3 hours, and by then, Prince Xie's bloodline had already been destroyed. His only remaining heirs were now in my and Zhang Yinshue's wombs. Around noon, the door of the warm chamber finally opened. Zhang Yinshue was still standing outside, her mouth red and swollen from being slapped by my maid after she had shouted loudly outside the palace door last night. When she saw me, she shot me a resentful glare, but she didn't have time to deal with me. She hurried inside to check on Prince Xie's condition. Just then, Prince Xie woke up. Prince! Prince! Zhang Yinshue cried with tears in her eyes, calling out to Prince Xie. The newly awakened Prince Xie, forgetting to keep up the act, reached out to wipe away her tears. I quietly watched from behind the screen. What a perfect pair of loving fools. After taking medicine for 2 days, Prince Xie finally regained some strength. When he learned that the wine he drank had been poisoned and his manhood had been damaged, he was furious. Zhang Yinshue whispered in his ear, complaining about how I had made things difficult for her when he was poisoned and unconscious. Even if it was poison, how could it have been so brazenly aimed at the prince? I heard from the maids in the front yard that the cup of wine was personally served to you by the princess. The way she said it was very subtle. Prince Xie, reminded by her words, recalled the intense pain he had felt before collapsing into a coma. Princess, don't you think you should explain yourself? Are you now doubting me, my lord? You'd rather believe Zhang Yinshue than trust me? I put on a sad face. At this moment, Prince Xie had to keep up the act of doting on me. He reached out and grabbed my hand. Jivan, how could I not trust you? It's just that. He probably still remembered the excruciating pain I had caused him. With tearful eyes, I spoke. Prince, you dote on me so much. How could I harm you? When you were poisoned that night, I was also terrified. I might have fumbled and caused you some pain by accident. I have already caught the maid who poisoned you, and this is her confession. She admitted that it was Prince Qi who instructed her to poison you. Upon hearing that there was evidence, the shadow of doubt in Prince Xie's eyes disappeared in an instant. He took the confession and read it carefully. The confession was enough to implicate Prince Qi. The poison wine was originally meant for me, but by some twist of fate, it ended up harming the prince instead. It was my fault. If I had known, I would have been the one to drink it. Princess, don't say such things. How could you have known that there was poison in the wine? Prince Xie embraced me and said, You're pregnant, and I'm just relieved that the poison didn't harm you. Otherwise, the child might not have been saved. Despite the damage to his manhood, his acting was still flawless. As he said this, his gaze was filled with tenderness, and there wasn't the slightest hint of deceit. But in my previous life, when I miscarried from the poison wine, Prince Xie had personally fed Zhang Yinshue with miscarriage medicine in the backyard, coaxing her with these words, Don't worry, you can focus on the pregnancy. Fortunately, the poisoned wine didn't harm you. Now, I finally understand, my lord. You were doing this for my own good. Zhang Yinshue, resting her hand on her belly, leaned into Prince Xie's embrace, full of both fear and schadenfreude. Tonight, her child will become a substitute for mine. Princess is just a living target in front of me. A target that won't live long. I don't care about this superficial affection anymore. But in this life, Prince Xie was my living target. I leaned into Prince Xie's arms in front of Zhang Yinshue and coquettishly said to him, I knew it, my lord. You love me and the child the most. Zhang Yingxue gritted her teeth as she looked at me, her hands clenched into fists within her sleeves. That evening, Yue came to report that Zhang Yingxue had caused a scene in the back courtyard with Xia Heng. Do you know how she tormented me that night? Under the candlelight, Zhang Yingxue started ranting, her voice bitter. Xia Heng keeps saying that his heart only belongs to me, yet he tolerates that woman, Song Jiwang, humiliating me like that. Afterward, not only did he not hold her accountable, but he also treated her as if nothing happened. What does that make me? What does my child even mean to him? Lower your voice. Xia Heng, irritated by her shouting, growled in response. Do you want the entire mansion to know that you're pregnant too? So, what if they know? I'd love for everyone to know. Zhang Yingxue retorted. Zhang Yingxue, and the true love of the Ning prince. The child in my womb is the rightful heir to his title. Why does Song Jiwang get to rise to power through her child, while I'm stuck in the back courtyard, bullied and humiliated? Who is bullying you? Xia Heng asked, defending me. This household is well managed under Jivan's hand. Even if she isn't publicly favored, who dares to disrespect you? That's just it. Zhang Yingxue snapped. You're defending her? Is this your way of saying she's more important than me? Xia Heng furrowed his brow. I'm being very clear with you. Right now, the battle for succession is at its most critical point. The Qiwang is using all sorts of schemes to undermine me. You are my most beloved woman, and I cannot afford to spoil you too much right now. It's all to protect you. Song Jiwang enjoys favor, so what? When it comes to the crucial moment, she will be the one in the line of fire. All the arrows, whether open or hidden, will target her. If you remain low-key, there will be better days ahead for you. Had it been before, Zhang Yingxue might have understood this reasoning, but now, after enduring such a great humiliation, especially after the poisoned wine failed to affect Song Jiwang, her pride had been shattered. In the previous life, she had witnessed Song Jiwang being poisoned, and it was only after that she reluctantly resigned herself to staying in the back courtyard, bearing her suffering. She stared at Xia Heng as he continued to defend Song Jiwang, her frustration growing. This isn't about being a target. She's taking everything from me. She rushed forward and clung to Xia Heng. Don't leave tonight. Xia Heng, trying to remain patient, sighed and tried to explain. I can't indulge you like that. But Zhang Yingxue cried. My child wants its father too. Just tonight, please. The doctor said I'm carrying twins, and if I don't keep your heart, who will? Xia Heng had been privately informed by the doctor that he might still be able to perform his duties with the right medicine, but he was no longer able to father a child. This meant that the twins in Zhang Yingxue's womb were his only remaining bloodline. Had it been before, Xia Heng wouldn't have given in so easily. But now, he seemed to relent, turning around and holding her in his arms. Be obedient. Song Jiwang will be the stepping stone for you to become empress. Zhang Yingxue nodded obediently, clinging to him tightly, unwilling to let go. That night, the whole mansion knew. The prince had favored his concubine Zhang for the first time in half a year. The next morning, Xia Heng took the confession to the emperor, seeking to report the matter. To my surprise, Zhang Yingxue came to pay her respects, dropping the modest attire and silver accessories she had previously worn to feign simplicity. Instead, she was dressed in an embroidered silk robe and gold-adorned hairpins, strolling in front of me with a lazy demeanor. Greetings, my lady. As she bowed, she quickly straightened up, smiling. My lady, please excuse me. The prince and I were up late last night. I was quite exhausted this morning. I casually sipped my tea and replied, It seems the prince was very kind to you last night. Congratulations on regaining his favor. Zhang Yingxue smirked, her eyes filled with challenge. She was declaring war with me. What she didn't realize was that the more she rushed to fight for Xia Heng's favor, the safer I became. It wasn't until evening that Xia Heng returned from the palace. That night, the decree came down to strip the Qiwang of his command over the royal guards as punishment for poisoning his brother. The emperor was aging and ill, so the authority was transferred to his son. With the Qiwang punished, Xia Heng, as the Ning prince, was now the only viable candidate. In Xia Heng's camp, the only one who truly understood how to handle military generals was my brother. Thus, the military authority was handed to my brother, who came to visit the palace, bringing a century-old herb as a gift. I heard the prince was harmed by poison, so I specially sought this remedy from the western regions. It should be brewed every night before sleep. Xia Heng's eyes lit up. Really? My brother responded, the prince is my sister's husband. If the prince is well, my sister will be well. This medicine is naturally the finest remedy. Xia Heng grinned. Mingchen, you are truly my best brother. Rest assured, once our great cause is accomplished, your sister will be the untouchable empress. The Song family will become the most important family, second only to the emperor. My brother nodded respectfully, but there was a deep coldness in his eyes. He stayed at the palace the whole afternoon, discussing matters in the study. Zhang Yingxue, hiding in the bamboo grove outside the study, overheard everything. Her face turned pale as she held her belly, swaying like she might fall at any moment. Empress? He really wants Song Jiwang to become empress? What does that make me? By evening, Yue came to report. My lady, I've followed your instructions and let the word slip that the prince and General Song are discussing family matters in the study. Zhang Yingxue took the opportunity to eavesdrop under the guise of delivering pastries. I casually stirred the incense powder in my hand. Let her listen. The more she hears, the more anxious she becomes. When she gets anxious, she'll make foolish mistakes. As I calculated the timing, I knew that the carriage accident from my previous life would happen in 3 days. The princess' birthday banquet was set at the princess mansion. When the invitation arrived at the Ning prince's mansion, Xia Heng had not yet returned from court, and I, specifically, had planned to visit my parents' home at this time. The invitation was conveniently intercepted by Zhang Yingxue. When the eunuch explained his purpose, Zhang Yingxue asked, only the princess can go? Can I go instead? The eunuch responded, at such a royal banquet, only the legitimate wife of a royal family member is eligible to attend. Please, Mrs. Zhang, be mindful of your position. In principle, you're not even qualified to receive this invitation in the front hall. However, as the prince and princess are both absent today, we have temporarily handed it to you. Please be sure to pass the invitation to Princess Ning. I take my leave now. After the eunuch from the princess's residence left, Zhang Yingxue muttered under her breath, what legitimate wife? I am the only true wife in the prince's heart. Her maid said, Madam, the princess will return to the manor at noon today. You can pass the invitation to her then. The eunuch looked at me like I'm just a lowly concubine, but I'm the one the prince truly loves. Zhang Yingxue gripped the invitation, looking at the 2 characters for princess on it, and her anger surged. Everyone knows that Prince Xia Heng loves Princess Ning the most. They all hold that woman in higher regard. So, what about me? Why should she always be the one to steal the spotlight at these events? She made a firm decision and called for her personal maid. Bring me my most luxurious clothes and jewelry. I will attend the princess's birthday banquet and amaze everyone, so they will all know that the true lady of Ningwang Manor is not the princess, but me. The maid hesitated. Madam, this is not appropriate. My rules are the rules. Zhang Yingxue slapped the maid across the face. You dare to lecture me about propriety just because I'm not favored? The maid, crying, quickly retreated to carry out the order. That evening, when I returned to the manor, I deliberately asked, has there been any invitation today? The servants around me were too afraid to answer. I remember, the princess's birthday is coming soon. Isn't there an invitation for a banquet? Zhang Yingxue, sitting nearby, seemed a little uneasy, but did not reveal anything. Instead, she said, the princess and her husband have always been affectionate, and she's quite a devoted person. If she hasn't invited you, it means she doesn't like you. Though everyone says that the prince favors you the most, the princess sees things clearly. Her words were clearly a subtle mockery that Xia Heng's true love was her, not me. Seeing her stand tall and smug, I chuckled lightly, not responding, and didn't ask further questions. 3 days later, the princess's residence was bustling. All the royal relatives who could attend had come. Even if the men couldn't make it, the noble women brought lavish gifts to congratulate the princess. Princess Ning is here. The four-horse carriage stopped at the entrance of the princess's residence, and everyone turned to look. Thanks to Xia Heng's exclusive affection for me, wherever I went, I became the center of attention. Naturally, all the royal family members recognized me. Everyone expected me to bring some rare treasures that Xia Heng had gifted me, but to their surprise, it was a new face who stepped down from the carriage. Zhang Yinxue was dressed in luxurious attire, wearing a golden brocade gown with a pure gold peony hairpin. Her elaborate outfit completely overshadowed the birthday princess. The princess, who had been smiling warmly, immediately lost her smile when she saw Zhang Yinxue's grandiose entrance. Since it was a joyous occasion, the princess refrained from making a fuss but did not give face to a disrespectful concubine. She walked up and asked, "Where is Jibun? Why isn't she here today?" My invitation was for both the prince and princess. It's understandable if the prince is busy with state affairs, but why isn't the princess here? Zhang Yinxue, confident in her status as Xia Heng's true love, eagerly grabbed the princess's hand and said, "Princess, I am here on behalf of the prince." The princess looked at her hand and coldly asked, "Who are you in the manor? I've never seen you before." "I am the prince's only legitimate concubine." The surrounding people murmured, "Isn't she the new concubine the prince recently brought into the manor? I heard her family committed a grave crime, and the prince took pity on her and made her his concubine." A concubine attending such a grand banquet? What kind of decorum is this? Everyone knows the prince favors Princess Ning the most. Given the occasion, the princess should have attended, for both emotional and practical reasons. Yes. Could it be that the princess has lost favor? Zhang Yinxue listened to the gossip and straightened her back, lifting her chin proudly. "Today, the prince asked me to represent Ningguang Manor in congratulating the princess on her birthday." The crowd erupted in even more chatter. This concubine managed to take the princess's place? A concubine attending such a banquet. Looks like her position in the manor is not lower than the princess's. They say the prince loves Princess Ning the most, but it seems this concubine is the new favorite. The princess is about to feel the cold shoulder. Zhang Yinxue reveled in the attention, enjoying being the center of the conversation. Having been humiliated before, driven to the back courtyard, and deliberately tormented by me, her pride had suffered greatly. She needed this moment, this grand event, to restore her dignity and self-worth. The princess took back her hand from Zhang Yinxue's grasp, and Zhang Yinxue sensed the subtle change in the princess's gaze. Though Zhang Yinxue had once been a noblewoman, she knew full well that her behavior today was improper. But so what? She wanted everyone to know she was the true favored concubine of the prince. She, too, had the right to share in the grandeur and respect of the royal circle. No matter how others saw her, she walked confidently into the princess's residence. The prince loved her, and she was carrying twins. These two advantages were enough to make her proud for a while. By the time the banquet ended, it was already the afternoon. The carriage from Ningguang Manor swaggered through the royal street, drawing envious glances from the common folk. Many people couldn't help but exclaim, "Princess Ning is truly beloved." Zhang Yinxue, upon hearing this, deliberately lifted the curtain of the carriage, allowing everyone to see that the person sitting in this grand four-horse carriage was none other than her. Her personal maid had also been assigned a task, spreading the word around. The person in this carriage is the beloved concubine of King Ning, Lady Zhang. Not the Ningguang Fei. After making her rounds, Zhang Yinxue became widely known throughout the imperial city. While some mocked her family's past crimes, more people speculated that Ningguang Fei had fallen from grace and that the king was favoring his concubine, reducing his wife to insignificance. Zhang Yinxue reveled in this newfound attention, but her personal maid began to feel uneasy. "Madam, all of this was done without informing the king. If he finds out, he might be angry." Recently, There had been a famine in Heching, and Xia Heng had been overwhelmed with government affairs, returning late into the night. Thus, news from the inner household inevitably got delayed. Zhang Yingxue suspected Xia Heng would throw a tantrum upon hearing the news, but she simply stroked her still flat belly and dismissed the thought. Even if the king is angry with me, he won't do anything. After all, I carry the most precious bloodline of Ning Wangfu. No sooner had she spoken those words than the carriage lurched suddenly. Zhang Yingxue was thrown back into the carriage's wall. Before she could scold the coachman, the horses neighed wildly and the carriage swerved uncontrollably, tossing her body this way and that. With a loud thud, her abdomen slammed against the floor. "Ah! My stomach," she screamed. However, the bumpy ride showed no signs of stopping. From the outside, the horses seemed to be in a panic, running in different directions, dragging the carriage through the streets in a chaotic, unbalanced state. It crashed into nearby merchant stalls and buildings. The guards and maids outside were in a panic, watching the wild horses drag the carriage, crashing into everything. Finally, with a loud thud, the left side of the carriage's wheels broke off, and the entire carriage tilted and collapsed onto the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. "Ah!" a maid screamed. "Madam! Someone save Madam! She's carrying the king's child." People rushed to react as the crazed horses bolted off, with guards chasing after them. Several maids rushed to lift the curtain of the carriage, only to find the once proud Lady Zhang, her hair disheveled and her body twisted in an awkward position inside the carriage. Her skirt below the waist was soaked with blood. In the imperial palace's study, a palace eunuch rushed in. "Your Majesty, there's an emergency." The old emperor coughed twice. "What's happened? Why are you so flustered?" The carriage of Ning Wangfu was overturned on the street. Xia Heng, who had been buried in state affairs, immediately looked up. "What did you say?" The eunuch repeated. Today is the birthday of the Grand Princess, and Ning Wangfu attended the banquet. On the way back, the horses suddenly went wild, and the carriage was wrecked. Xia Heng frowned slightly. What about the Wangfei? He presumed that only the legitimate wife, Song Jiwang, would attend a grand banquet like this. The eunuch, following Xia Heng's lead, replied, "I've heard the Wangfei was badly injured and the child may not survive." Xia Heng suddenly stood up. If it had been in the past, losing Song Jiwang's child wouldn't have mattered to him. But now, with his own legacy at risk, the death of one child felt like the loss of an entire bloodline. He couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. The elderly emperor, too frail to bear such distress, began coughing again. Xia Heng hastily poured his father a cup of tea. "You should return to the palace and check on it," the emperor urged, looking more worried than Xia Heng. Xia Heng nodded respectfully before leaving the palace, walking with a sense of urgency, but maintaining his composure. It must have been retaliation from the Qi King's residence. Fortunately, the person in the carriage was definitely Song Jiwang, his legitimate wife. At least the child lost was hers. Though he felt regretful, it didn't hurt as much as it should have. After all, Zhang Yingxue was carrying twins. If Song Jiwang had miscarried, finding any evidence of that would provide him with another opportunity to suppress the Qi King. With these thoughts in mind, he calmly made his way back to Ning Wangfu. As he approached the gates, he saw Song's family's carriage slowly pulling up. He stared in confusion as the carriage stopped. I stepped out slowly, lifting my skirt as I descended from the carriage. Xia Heng froze. "Wangfei? You, how?" I nodded at him with a smile. "Wang Ye, what did you think? That something would happen to me?" Xia Heng was stunned. "Then who was the one who fell from the carriage and miscarried?" I smiled with a hint of mockery, feigning surprise. "What?" "My sister Zhang was pregnant." "Oh my poor sister Zhang." She accepted the invitation to the Grand Princess's birthday banquet and went alone, never expecting such a calamity on her way back. Before I could finish speaking, Xia Heng had already rushed into the residence. I watched his back as I touched my own steady, healthy belly and smirked coldly. I didn't need to do anything personally. The Qi King was the best tool for my revenge. In the back courtyard, several maids hurriedly walked out, carrying basin after basin of blood. As they approached Zhang Yingshua's bedroom, the smell of blood was thick in the air, and her screams and groans echoed. "It hurts! Wang Ye! My child! My child! My child! Ah! It hurts so much!" 3 or 4 physicians stood by, desperately trying to save her, but all of them confirmed the grim truth. The child cannot be saved. Half an hour later, 2 bundles of flesh were extracted from Zhang Yingshua's body. They truly were twins. Xie Heng staggered, his face going pale as an expression of cruel mockery twisted across it before he collapsed onto the floor, crying uncontrollably. "My children, my 2 children." I stood quietly to the side listening to him. "Xie Heng, in my past life, when my child was lost, you shed a single tear and then went to the back courtyard to give Zhang Yingxue miscarriage medicine. Does it hurt? It should. But compared to the suffering I endured in my past life, what's happening now doesn't even come close." The entire manor of the Prince of Ning was engulfed in the shadow of the miscarriage of the twins. Zhang Yingxue lost both of her children, and her body was also severely injured. She spent over a month in bed before she could muster enough strength to walk. During this time, Xie Heng went mad searching for the person who had tampered with the carriage. In my past life, when I fell from the carriage, he didn't panic at all, and even took the time to listen to the movements of the dragon and phoenix twins in the backyard. But this time, the person who acted in the shadows was well hidden. Xie Heng couldn't find the culprit, and losing the 2 children left him in a constant state of low pressure, ready to snap at any moment. One rainy day, Xie Heng's people suddenly sent word for me to go to the warm pavilion. When I entered the warm pavilion, Zhang Yingxue, who was still bedridden, pointed at me and cursed. "It should have been you going to the banquet that day. You knew the carriage would have an accident, didn't you?" "Miss Zhang, it seems you're confused from your illness," I innocently responded. "The princess holds a birthday banquet every year, and I did remember it, so that day I specifically asked you if there was an invitation. You were the one who said there wasn't any. You even said the princess wouldn't invite me. Did you forget?" I gently reminded her. "It's all right if you forgot. Many servants in the house heard it. Should we bring them forward as witnesses?" Zhang Yingxue glared at me, but couldn't refute a word. I pressed further. "That day you went to the banquet, not only did you overshadow the princess, the birthday star, with your attire, you also flaunted yourself in the streets. Now, everyone's gossiping about how the Prince of Ning dotes on you, his concubine, more than his wife." Zhang Yingxue gritted her teeth and snarled, "Song Jivan, you did this on purpose. My 2 children are gone, all gone. And your child is the only one left." She suddenly stared at my visibly pregnant belly and charged toward me. The maidservants and matrons quickly blocked her, but Zhang Yingxue, already weak, stumbled and fell to the ground before even reaching me. "Enough!" Xie Heng stood up, but instead of helping Zhang Yingxue, he pointed at her, scolding. "Do you want things to get even worse?" "Prince, it was the princess who did this," Zhang Yingxue shouted. "Why was she conveniently absent the day the invitation came from the princess's palace? She clearly has ulterior motives. It shouldn't have been me who was harmed. That invitation was stolen by you," she accused. "You secretly went to the banquet and stole the spotlight. Now everyone's talking about how the prince dotes on his concubine and ignores his wife." Xie Heng shouted in anger. He had planned everything perfectly, and it was all within his control, but now it was all ruined because of Zhang Yingxue, this vain and shallow woman. He had lost a pair of dragon and phoenix twins, which was the greatest sorrow for him. I pretended to be startled, touching my belly and acting uneasy. Xie Heng immediately became concerned. "Princess, please don't harm the baby. He couldn't have any more children. This one in my belly was his only hope. If anything happened to me now, Xie Heng would truly go mad." You see, a suitable heir not only had to be capable and loved by the people, but they also needed to have the fundamental ability to produce heirs. If something happened to the child I carried, Xie Heng would be left without descendants. Historically, no emperor had ever named a childless prince as heir to the throne. Miss Zhang is so emotional. She's blaming me for not stopping her from going to the banquet that day. I'm afraid she might do something reckless to harm our child. Song Jivan. UB asterisk 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 asterisk. What are you pretending for? Zhang Yinxue tried to charge at me again, but this time Xie Heng kicked her aside. Enough! If you dare harm the child in the princess's womb, I will have you torn to pieces. After the loss of the twins, Xie Heng's attitude toward Zhang Yinxue changed subtly. The force of his kick was far from gentle. Zhang Yinxue was knocked to the ground, struggling for a long time before she managed to get up. From today on, go back to your snow-warm pavilion and reflect on your actions. Rest and recover from your illness. Zhang Yinxue sobbed and questioned, Prince, you would treat me like this for her? Xie Heng's face was cold. He had told Zhang Yinxue to calm down, to endure her solitude, and assured her that wealth and honor awaited her and her child in the future, but this woman was too vain and restless, always craving attention. Now, everyone in the city knew how the Prince of Ning favored his concubine over his wife, and people who harbored ill intentions would target Zhang Yinxue. She was now completely useless as a pawn. Xie Heng, with his ambitions to seize the throne, despised foolishness. In the past, he had shown some affection for Zhang Yinxue, but that affection had completely dissipated with the miscarriage of the twins. He was harsh with Zhang Yinxue, but turned to me with gentleness, assuring me to rest and avoid any unnecessary outings. Men change their hearts in the blink of an eye. How I regret not seeing this truth in my past life. No matter how much Zhang Yinxue cried or screamed, Xie Heng didn't want to see her anymore. She was dragged out of the warm pavilion by a few matrons. Without her children, and with her complete fall from grace, no one gave her any more respect. Her punishment was severe. I moved closer to Xie Heng, resting in his arms, watching Zhang Yinxue being dragged away. I gave her a triumphant smile. Zhang Yinxue shivered, suddenly realizing what had happened. She cursed me with all her might. Song Jivan, you've ruined me. You did this on purpose. You're using others to kill me. UB asterisk 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 asterisk. Prince. I weakly nestled in Xie Heng's arms. Miss Zhang seems to have gone mad. I'm so scared. Xie Heng hugged me tightly, comforting me. Don't be afraid. I won't let that fool harm you. Before our child was born safely, Xie Heng would make sure to protect me. He treated me even better than before, and at the same time, his brother, who was at the front lines, earned great military achievements. Xie Heng's gaze toward me became increasingly appreciative. I knew that now I had become the most valuable piece in his eyes. The emperor's condition continued to worsen, and in recent days, Xie Heng had been worn down by Zhang Yinxue's issues, compounded by the aftereffects of the poison he had been subjected to earlier. He had lost the strength to even go to the palace to serve the emperor. This gave Prince Qi an opportunity, and he asked to enter the palace to care for the emperor's health for a month. 3 points of favor from meeting were enough, and the emperor, recalling the bond of father and son, pardoned Prince Qi for his past mistakes and lifted his banishment. The Qi family regained power. Recently, rumors began to spread in the capital that the Song family's influence was overshadowing the emperor, with Song Mingqian's military achievements making him a potential choice for ruler. The rumors were malicious and targeted the Song family. However, Xie Heng didn't pay much attention. These rumors wouldn't truly threaten the interests of the Ning prince's household and could even serve as evidence for when he later sought to bring the Song family down. I was anxious and distressed, privately writing to my brother, warning him to be cautious of the vicious rumors. It was often those countless tongues of rumor that caused the most harm. My brother replied, "Little sister, looking at things now, it seems your dream was true. Ningguang reaps the benefits of the Song family's military achievements while plotting to turn my Song family into his live target. Those who use others as live targets will ultimately die from 1,000 arrows to the heart. Little sister, watch closely." On the day of my brother's victorious return, Xie Heng and I personally went to the city gates to welcome him. My brother gave me a glance and, in front of the people and the entire army, performed the full ceremony of a respectful subject before Siahung. This was his way of telling everyone that no matter how powerful the Song family became, they would always be loyal subjects. His military achievements would always be considered as attributed to Ning Wang, and the one who would ultimately benefit would be Ning Wang himself. My brother's bow caused the rumors of the capital to change in a single day. Ning Wang had treated him as a live target, but with his bow, the live target had directly become Ning Wang himself. At the same time, the emperor fell into another coma after vomiting blood. Prince Qi, desperate, realized that with Siaheng's rise in power, continuing the struggle would leave little chance for his own victory. The previous schemes had all been aimed at Siaheng's close allies, but had failed to harm him. Instead, it had backfired, with the stone lifted only to crush Prince Qi's own foot. Prince Qi gritted his teeth and said, "This time, I'll take Siaheng's life." On the third day of the emperor's coma, Prince Qi pretended to issue an imperial decree, accusing the Ning prince's residents of plotting rebellion due to their excessive power. He directly led his army to surround the Ning prince's residence. The Song family had long been on alert. The two armies stood facing each other, and overnight, the capital was in chaos. This rebellion came 2 years earlier than in my past life. The Ning prince's residence, originally well protected by the Joe guards, should have been safe. However, a team of rebels sneaked through a back door and unexpectedly charged toward my Xiui pavilion. Leading them was none other than Zhang Yingxue. "You want to kill the Ning prince's wife, don't you? She's the one. Kill her and kill her child. The Ning prince's house will be without heirs." I shielded my belly, shouting, "Zhang Yingxue, are you out of your mind?" "I'm out of my mind," Zhang Yingxue sneered as she approached. "When these rebels first rape and then kill you, you'll go mad too. Wouldn't that be fun for everyone?" I laughed coldly. "You think these rebels will spare you?" Before she finished speaking, a knife was placed on Zhang Yingxue's neck by one of the rebels. Zhang Yingxue was shocked. "What are you doing?" "I led you here to bypass the Joe guards." "How dare you go back on your word?" the rebel leader replied. Prince Qi's wife was caused to miscarry by Ning Wang, and she died soon after in misery. The prince said, "Tonight's rebellion is not just for the throne, but to avenge his beloved wife. The crimes Ning Wang has committed should be paid for by the two women he holds most dear. Take these two women to the cliff." The wind at the cliff was cold and eerie. Zhang Yingxue and I were captured by the rebels at the cliff's edge, knives pressed to our throats. From the cliff, we could see the capital in chaos, flames rising in the distance. Siahung was leading his army to us. "Prince, only one of your wife and your beloved concubine can live," the rebels threatened. "Choose one." This scene reminded me of my past life. In nearly the same situation, Siahung had chosen me without hesitation. Before I could even feel touched, a knife had stabbed through my chest. In this moment, Siahung looked at me and said, "Let Yingxue go." Zhang Yingxue froze. "Wang Ye." She began crying in joy. "I knew it. I knew you only have me in your heart. I knew that I—" Before she could finish, she suddenly felt a coldness in her chest, looking down to see the rebel's knife plunged into her heart. Prince Qi said that whoever Ning Wang chooses will be the first to die. He wants Ning Wang to lose his beloved forever. Zhang Yingxue's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Blood poured from her mouth, and as she collapsed, the Joe guards and the Song family soldiers worked together to kill the rebels holding me captive. I was successfully rescued, and Siahung rushed forward, holding me tightly in his arms, confirming again, "Is the child all right? Is the child all right?" "I'm fine, Wang Ye," I replied in a calm voice. "The child is fine." "That's good." Siahung sighed with relief and embraced me tightly. Zhang Yingxue lay on the ground, her eyes turned upward, watching Siahung and me in each other's arms. The knife hadn't pierced her heart, but in the sharp pain, it triggered a blurry memory. In that memory, she was also held captive, also facing a choice between two people. The person Siahung chose, without hesitation, was Song Jivan. "No." No, this isn't right. Zhang Yingxue struggled to rise. Everything tonight was wrong. The one who should have been chosen wasn't her. The one who should have been stabbed wasn't her. She saw Xia Heng embracing me, and he explained to her willingly. I know Prince Qi's methods. Whoever I choose would be in danger, so I intentionally chose Zhang Yingxue. Jivan, Zhang Yingxue is just your live target. Tonight, everything is settled. Once you give birth to the prince, you will be the only empress. Zhang Yingxue's eyes widened. No, this is wrong. Everything is wrong. These words were spoken by Xia Heng to her. Song Jivan was the real live target. The empress position should have been hers, Zhang Yingxue's. It was wrong. Everything was wrong. She tried to scream, but due to her injuries, all that came out was blood, not a single word. I saw her struggling on the ground, her eyes filled with resentment and unwillingness. I deliberately said, Your Highness, it seems Miss Zhang has something to say. Xia Heng looked at her with disgust, then wrapped his arm around my shoulder and said, Don't mind her life or death. Let's go. King Qi suffered a crushing defeat tonight, but did not give Xia Heng the chance to humiliate him. By the time he was discovered, King Qi had already taken his own life at the tomb of the Queen of Qi. The emperor woke up and, on his deathbed, handed the throne to Xia Heng. Xia Heng successfully ascended the throne, and I became his rightful empress. On the day of his ascension, he appointed Song Mingchen as the general of the nation, placing him at the head of the military. I knew this was his usual tactic of elevating someone to bring them down. A few years later, once his throne was secure, the Song family would meet the same fate as I did in the previous life, betrayed and discarded. In the second month of his reign, I successfully gave birth to a young prince. Xia Heng was overjoyed and immediately declared him the crown prince. After all, this was his only biological son. On the day the crown prince was declared, a general amnesty was declared across the land. Zhang Yingxue, who had barely clung to life, fled the cold palace. Her beauty was gone, for the sword wound on her chest had not healed properly, and she could only stoop her back. She ran to the imperial study, pointing at me and the prince in swaddling clothes, shouting angrily, I am the only one who can bear the emperor's son and daughter. This bastard of yours is nothing but a scapegoat for my 2 children. It should never have been born. Song Jiwang, you've been scheming against me, against the emperor. You never deserved to be empress and bear the crown prince. She screamed wildly, going mad. She was quickly subdued by the guards, kneeling on the cold, hard ground. I handed the child to the wet nurse and stepped forward, gripping Zhang Yingxue's chin. If you weren't so foolish, I wouldn't have such a fate of being the mother of a nation. Actually, Xia Heng truly loved you at first. He neglected you in the back courtyard to protect you. He favored me only to make me your living target. But I see through all the schemes you two made. Zhang Yingxue, it was your foolishness. The night Xia Heng was poisoned, I deliberately humiliated you to make you jealous. The invitation to the princess's residence was also something I let you steal, knowing that on the way back from the banquet, the carriage would be tampered with by King Qi's people. That night of the rebellion, the rebels you brought in were also something I deliberately let you succeed at. Zhang Yingxue stared at me wide-eyed. What did you say? Otherwise, how do you think those people managed to bypass the Song family army and the armorless guards to attack Shui Pavilion directly? I did it on purpose. I wanted you to experience all the suffering I went through in my past life. Past life? So the memories in my mind were real? Does reincarnation really exist? Zhang Yingxue suddenly laughed loudly. Song Jiwang, I thought you were so clever. You defeated me so easily. It turns out you just lived an extra life. What if I lose this life? In my past life, I ascended to the imperial position, had children, and lived the life I wanted. I was the true winner. You filthy woman. After dying once, you finally learned to be smart. You won't have my victory. I wasn't angry. Instead, I asked, then why do you think you have memories of a past life? I died and was reborn here. Zhang Yingxue, you were so proud in your past life. Why were you reborn too? Could it be that your empress position was short-lived and you died as well? Zhang Yingshue's face twisted in pain as if suddenly reminded, and a severe headache hit her. Her memories of her past life resurfaced in full clarity. After Song Jiwang's death, Xiaheng tried to conceal the news of her death and used a decree to strip the Song family's military power. However, Song Mingchen, who was far at the border, had already received the news. On the day he received the decree, he executed the messenger, burned the decree, and raised an army in rebellion, marching straight into the imperial city. Just as Xiaheng had barely secured the throne, his power was unstable. The Song family army forced him to retreat step by step. Eventually, the Song family army captured the entire palace. Xiaheng and Zhang Yingxue were dragged to my tomb, kneeling in front of it, apologizing. Aha! Zhang Yingxue suddenly broke free from the guard's restraint. She clutched her throat in horror, shouting, "Your brother rebelled. Your brother beheaded me and Xiaheng in front of your tomb. Help! Help!" My pupils dilated. So, in my past life, the Song family had this ending. After I died, the Song family, who had always been loyal, didn't just sit idle. My brother, who was always so just, had actually rebelled for me. He killed the tyrant emperor and the wicked empress, avenging me. Kill this madwoman. I didn't know when, but Xiaheng had come out of the imperial study. He immediately gave the order for Zhang Yingshue's life. Zhang Yingxue rushed forward, grabbing Xiaheng's clothes, crying out, "Your Majesty, we've all been schemed against. Song Jiwang knew everything. She predicted everything. She's taking revenge on me and on you. Xiaheng, believe me this once." Xiaheng looked at her coldly, as if watching a joke. Zhang Yingxue was devastated by his indifference. All her fantasies about this man shattered. You loved me, but neglected me. You loved me, but used my name to hurt another woman. You loved me, but drove me mad. All of this started with you. She crazily pointed at Xiaheng, shouting angrily, "Xiaheng! Xiaheng! I will curse you." Suddenly, Xiaheng drew the Imperial Guard sword. A flash of cold light, and Zhang Yingxue froze, blood gushing from her neck. The emperor personally executed her, and the guards and maidservants around were shocked, quickly kneeling and shouting, "Your Majesty, please calm your anger." Xiaheng kicked Zhang Yingshue's corpse aside and stepped forward. He took the crown prince from the wet nurse's arms, speaking gently to him. He suddenly looked up at me and said, "Empress, come here." My hand in my sleeve clenched into a fist. In my past life, both Xiaheng and Zhang Yingxue died at my brother's hands. Now, Zhang Yingxue suddenly has memories of her past life. Could it be that Xiaheng has also been reborn? After Zhang Yingshue's death, Xiaheng treated me even better. He genuinely cherished the young prince and seemed to have forgotten everything Zhang Yingxue said before her death. After ascending the throne, he did not select any concubines but favored me every night because I was the only one who knew that he had ruined his ability to have children. Only I knew that he could never father another child. While the medicinal herb, Sistanch, might restore his vitality and maintain the illusion, it would never result in the birth of another prince. If he chose another woman for the harem, more people would discover the truth, that the emperor was impotent. Despite his pride, Xiaheng boasted to others that he was the most loyal emperor. He was also courteous to the Song family, calling my brother directly. During the first year of his reign, the northern D tribes invaded, and the Song family's army held the front line, pushing back the enemy. A year later, Song Mingchen returned victorious. Xiaheng personally welcomed him and hosted a celebratory banquet. At the banquet, Xiaheng promoted Song Mingchen to a first-rank duke, while ordering him to rest in the capital and no longer concern himself with military matters. The ministers could hear the implied demotion in his words. Though Song Mingchen had been given a title, his position as the commander of the national army was stripped. Song Mingchen merely sipped his wine, seemingly unaffected by this reward. Xiaheng's voice turned cold as he asked, My minister, aren't you going to express gratitude? Hearing the emperor's anger, the music and dance at the banquet ceased, and the atmosphere grew tense. Song Mingchen lazily responded without lifting his eyes. Is the emperor trying to unload the donkey after the grind? How dare you? Xia Heng's thoughts were exposed, and he was furious. He had planned to slowly strip away the Song family's power, like boiling a frog in water. But before he could even get started, the Song family openly opposed him. Song Mingchen sneered. This isn't the first time I've opposed you, Xia Heng. With that, he threw his cup to the ground, and in an instant, the Song family's army surrounded the entire imperial palace. Xia Heng's imperial guards offered no resistance and were quickly overwhelmed. The ministers present were all in a panic. Xia Heng stood up suddenly, yelling, "Don't forget, your sister is still in my harem. Is His Majesty calling for me?" I calmly entered the palace, with Yue holding the young prince in her arms. Song Jivan, how dare you betray me? I treated you so well. Xia Heng shouted. Did His Majesty treat me well for some pure reason, or was it just because you wanted to protect your beloved concubine? You never treated me as a human. I was just a tool, a living target in your path to power. A man like you has no right to accuse me of betrayal. Xia Heng was speechless, thinking his plans were flawless. I adjusted the phoenix hairpin on my head. I know the emperor enjoys cutting ties once they've served their purpose. The Song family had to act first. The Song family army was the backbone of the entire Qi kingdom. Any monarch would have no power to resist if they rebelled. And Xia Heng, a newly crowned emperor, was no exception. When Xia Heng was apprehended by the imperial guards, he still tried to act with righteous indignation, cursing Song Mingchen. I trusted you, promoted you, gave you the Song family's highest status, and your sister is even the empress. How could you do this to me? I stepped forward, leaning close to Xia Heng, and smiled as I exposed him. The emperor feared that, just like in the past, my brother would kill him and take the throne. Xia Heng's eyes widened as he stared at me. I smiled again. You tried to slowly strip the Song family's power, but I'm not foolish. I touched his neck. Did you ever think about how my brother would take revenge when you killed me in the past? Xia Heng glared at me. Don't you want to know when I regained my memories of the past? I guess you and Zhang Yingxue recovered your memories together, I replied. Judging by the timing, your reign didn't last long in the previous life, did it? When I said this, I felt relief, knowing that both of you were never destined for happiness in your past life. Song Mingchen handed me a dagger. Sister, avenge your grievances. I took the dagger and the blade ran across Xia Heng's neck, but I didn't kill him. In my past life, Xia Heng had caused me to suffer from illness for 3 long years, unable to sleep peacefully, living a life more painful than death. He should now experience my torment. For more than a year, Xia Heng had been consuming Sistanch every night. Xia Heng's expression changed suddenly. What do you mean? The drug is poison. It's not lethal, but it's addictive, I explained. You've become accustomed to it, haven't you? From now on, I will cut you off from it. I grabbed his chin. I want you to experience true despair. Xia Heng was locked in the cold palace, the first emperor ever to be sent there by his empress. That night, the effects of the drug were cut off. Xia Heng initially felt nothing, only that he couldn't perform, assuming I was just exaggerating, and cursed as he went to bed. However, in the middle of the night, he was jolted awake in pain. It felt as though his lower body was being cut by an ice-cold blade, slowly sawing at the most sensitive area. The pain was unbearable. Only the special Sistanch could alleviate this kind of pain, but I refused to give him any. The cries of Xia Heng's suffering echoed from the cold palace every night, gradually turning into pleas for mercy and sobbing. A month later, when I visited him again, Xia Heng had been tortured to the point where he no longer resembled a human being. He knelt before me, begging for a single Sistanch root. He kowtowed. I was wrong. I shouldn't have used you. Jivan, pity me. Give me the medicine. I am suffering more than death. I stood coldly. How long has it been? Just a month, and you can't bear it? I endured this pain for 3 years in my past life, and no one ever pitied me. Song Jivan, you poisonous woman, Siahung shouted in madness, lunging toward me, but the guards restrained him. He screamed, "That poisoned wine was your doing. The cistanche was your trap from the beginning." I laughed disdainfully. Not only that, but I also let Zhang Yingxue steal the invitation to the princess's manor. I knew the carriage would be ambushed on the way back, and since she wanted to steal the spotlight, I let her have it. Let her get all the attention she craved, and take her cursed twins to hell with her. After all, they were so noisy in the cold palace in the previous life. It's better they're gone. By killing them, I am avenging my children from the past life. Siahung looked at me like a demon. Song Jivan, you are so vicious. You don't even spare the child. I sneered. My malicious heart now is learned from you. The outcome of your current life is merely the retribution of your past misdeeds. I haven't even dirtied my hands, after all. Everything is done with the knife of King Qi. My hands are quite clean. Siahung was utterly devastated. He wanted to kill me, but the pain in his lower body tortured him so much that he couldn't even stand up, like a shrimp with its veins pulled out. The guards didn't need to do anything. He couldn't even stand. I watched his pathetic state, my red lips slightly parted. You betrayed my true heart, and you deserve this retribution. Even if we reincarnate, you won't escape. All about the past life. Song Mingchen learned from me. When he heard that in the previous life, he killed the emperor to avenge me, he wasn't surprised. He said seriously, even if it happens again, I will do the same. Since Siahung will betray you in the future, as your older brother, should I just watch him hurt you and then resist? No, I'll act first. And thus, the palace coup happened. After the coup, I, as the empress, declared that the emperor had suddenly gone mad and that from now on, the throne would be passed on to the little crown prince. The crown prince was young, so I would listen to state matters from behind a curtain, and Song Mingchen would be the regent. The Song family is the backbone of the Qi nation. Although the citizens thought it odd that the emperor suddenly went mad, the crown prince, after all, had the legitimate imperial bloodline, so everything was legitimate. Thus, the unrest from the coup only lasted a month before the nation regained its stability. I repeatedly confirmed that my brother didn't have memories of his past life. He asked why I was so worried. Only those who died in the past life can reincarnate in this life. Brother, I hope you lived a long life in your past life. My brother smiled gently. If that's true, then if I died in the past life, could I not continue being your brother in this life? That wouldn't be bad. Little sister, no matter how many times we reincarnate, I will protect the Qi nation, protect the Song family, and protect you. My brother never reincarnated. I know he must have been a wise and beloved ruler in the past. Siahung suffered for 3 years in the cold palace. Once I had tortured him enough, I deliberately had the guards open the door. Siahung thought he could escape, but when he ran out of the cold palace, he found a row of archers aiming their arrows at him. I sat leisurely on the phoenix throne, raising my eyes slightly. Those who betray others' true hearts and treat them as live targets will die from 1,000 arrows piercing their hearts. I raised my hand gently. Fire. Hundreds of arrows shot towards Siaheng's vital points, and before he could even scream, one arrow pierced his throat. That mouth, which was skilled in deceiving me with sweet words, and that heart full of malicious plans for those by his side, was all pierced by arrows. The little crown prince, under my guidance, grew sensible, intelligent, and lively. Siahung was never seen again. My brother said the child had the lively energy of my younger self. Yes, this child must have been the baby from my past life who came to find me. He knew he died because of Siaheng's schemes in his previous life, so in this life, he didn't want to resemble him at all. When the crown prince grew up, one day he asked me, "Mother, what is most important in life?" True heart. A person's true heart is precious. I said softly. As an emperor, if the people truly love you, you should repay them with true heart and ensure they have enough to eat and wear. As a ruler, If the generals sincerely protect your country, you should repay them with true heart, looking after their families and rewarding their achievements. And as a person, my son, never follow your father's example. Those who betray true hearts will not die a good death. The little crown prince said loudly, "He's not my father. I want to grow into a man like Regent." He kept his word and truly grew into a wise ruler. In this life, with the rivers clear and the seas calm, the years gentle, I got the happiness I deserved. The end.